Hey there guys, in this video I'm going to be talking about breakers for a little bit. So with Ella Spears coming out in a few days, I figured it'd be a good time to look at breakers, both breakers currently available and those we expect to be upcoming from the JP server. Now in this video we're going to be primarily focusing on Dark Visions and Vision World. We're not really worried about trial content, and we're not really worried about Clash of Wills breaking. So if a unit only has good breaks one time in the fight from a Magnus, that's totally fine for us for our uses, because again, all we really care about is Dark Visions in this video. So here in the chart that I made for you is all the breakers that have both 89 defense and spirit breaks at the same time or better. Units that are like, for example, 90% to one stat and then, lower tier to another stat are not included, because most Dark Visions these days do have multi-typed parties, meaning like you're putting Genesis on your party with Rain, or you're putting, I don't know, a mage on your party with your rebel party. You get what I'm saying? So all we care about is units that break to 89 defense and spirit at the same time. So we're going to go ahead and just go through all of them. I'm just going to give you some brief little info about them, and that way you can maybe better plan your party's upcoming, maybe better plan the stuff you're going to pull for, etc. So first of all, just for completion's sake, I will mention Cacteria. She technically does have 89 breaks, but that's kind of all she does, and her damage is really terrible. She doesn't have any good categories, except for Clash of Wills. So I was calling it Chaos Wave. Clash of Wills support. She does have that, but again, even with a 750 leader skill, her damage is irrelevant. She has no fields, etc. So just for completion's sake. Then we've got Laguna, the 160 Water Imperil Breaker, 89. Doesn't have any good categories except for water and no fields. I will mention Laguna can double Mirage on demand, which is kind of useful, but his damage is also pretty irrelevant. Then there's Emperor, the 160 Wind Imperil. He does have a 35 Rod Imperil. No good categories, no good fields. Does have 89, but again, we're just going through all the older breakers. The older breakers, you probably realize, are not that special. You might see them on a team every now and then, but they're not really bringing a whole lot other than their breaks. Same thing with Lion. Lion does have actually 3-stack Mirage on a cooldown, or is it 2-stack? I'm not entirely sure, but she has at least 2-stack Mirage on a cooldown for the party. 89 breaks, 160 Light Imperil, and she does basically no damage, no fields, and has no categories that matter. Yish, same thing, Ice, 160 Imperil, no good categories, no good field. Angeal, Lightning, no good categories, no good field. I will give a shout out to Angeal for being at least a tag chainer, and he can also do some special buffs on the kill turn, so a little bit useful, has some machine killer, etc. And some of these other units do have, other little perks, like Yish has Machine Killer, Lion has Human Killer for the party, I think Machine as well. Everybody hates machines in the breaker category. But yeah, you get the idea. Tulian is an 89 breaker after his Vidar upgrade, 160 Earth Imperil. He is the Rebel category as well, so he can, fit on a Lightning party if you need be. His damage is not anything to, write home about, but it's okay, kind of. And he does have a 30% or a 35%, one of them, 30 or 35, Earth Amplify field. So that is, we're getting to the point where breakers start having utility on top of breaks. And that's pretty good. Red-Eyed Saul is a dark category. Still none of the special categories like up here. But he does have a 30% Ice and a 30% Dark Imperil field. And he does okay-ish damage if you can give him the extra support that he needs, like a weapon imperil and all that kind of stuff. And then Blades of Black Flame Reagan, he's kind of like, the big name breaker at the current time, because while he doesn't have any field or any kind of utility, he does have really high personal damage, and that's kind of nice. He's also a dual element category. So he can actually go on a Deoxys party or a Rain party, although Rain gets the Brave XPS regardless. But yeah, he has Dark in the base form, Fire Tag in the Shift form, so keep that in mind. Then we get to the breakers that are unreleased, the ones that are upcoming. So just for completion's sake, I included Cater. It looks like Cater is a lost cause at this point. We're probably never getting her on Global. You know, she's a month late. We kept thinking that she might be stuck on like a random banner or a dead week. We've had dead weeks. We've had random banners she could have easily been stuck on, and they didn't. So it feels like Cater is just never going to happen. But for completion's sake, we'll discuss her. So Cater is an ice category. Also, the Crystal category. As you'll notice, she was the only breaker for the Crystal category, and it's really unfortunate that we skipped her. It really hurts the Crystal category. And then no fields or anything, but she did have a 90% spirit break. So she was actually an 89-90. The only breaker on this list that was 89-90. So technically speaking, she had the highest breaks in the entirety of the game at 89-90. And I guess that's probably why they skipped her, is they just said 89-90 is overpoweringly can't have that. And she's been skipped. So yeah. And now we have the upcoming breakers. Now, as you'll notice real quick, as we're moving forward, we're basically getting like breaker power creep. So breakers start getting lots of special categories, and more importantly, breakers start getting imperil fields. That becomes the standard on, as you can see, literally every single breaker going forward has 1, or in some cases up to 5 imperil fields at the same time. So Saul, you know, had the early one, but then later on, everyone gets it going forward. So Elespirus is the one going forward. Now, I'm just assuming she has 89 breaks. That has not been confirmed yet. I would be highly surprised if she doesn't have 89 breaks, because if she doesn't, like, oh boy, big skip. But I'm going to assume she does for the sake of this video. If she doesn't, well, we'll see that in 2 days, but until then, I'm going to assume she does. So we do know she is a Dark category and Clash of Wills support category, which currently is only Rebellious Lightning or Wondrous Flash Lightning. The assumption is that all the premium leaders going forward are going to have some variation of this Clash of Wills tag. We don't know that for certain. That's an assumption. It could be a one-off thing. I would be surprised if it is. I would very much assume going forward that all the units that are premium leaders are going to have some version of the Chaos Wave. Oh my god, that stupid CW. Clash of Wills support category. Elespirus, we also know from the live stream, has a 40% Dark Imperil field. Now, you might be looking right here and be like, oh, that's unique and amazing. No one else has that. I will mention just real quickly that another unit that has a 40% is Cursed Demon Nelica. And like I said in the previous video, if you're going for a dark focused team and Dark Visions, you're gonna pull for Nelica, because as you can see right here, like, she's literally the highest dark damage dealer in the game, even beating out the Dark Premium leader, Demon or Adamos Roca, whatever her name's going to be on Global. Demon Roca, Adamos Roca. This is your premium leader for that, you know, little party right there. And then Nelica is just the highest damage dealer for that party. So you're going to have a 40% Dark Imperil field, Elespirus or not, if you're going that route. So I want people to just be aware of that. This is not a unique special snowflake thing. But it's still good. It's still on your breaker. That's still, you know, really good. And again, she's the only Clash of Wills support breaker that matters. We're not counting Cacteria. Then we've got Vanille, who we're assuming is going to be coming very soon. Technically should have already been here, but you know, Global moves things around a little bit. So she is Earth category, but more importantly, she's the Rebellion category. Now, these breakers and most of the earlier ones, not counting Saul and Reagan, like, their categories don't matter that much, honestly, because they're not dealing any relevant damage. Starting Galoof and beyond, I'll show you in a minute, that's when JP just really kicked into the power creep for breakers. So the earlier breakers just don't deal any damage. Like, you know, if you put Lion on a party, Yish on a party, Angeal on a party, and you try to gear them in full DPS, like, it's not going to happen. They don't deal damage. But the future ones absolutely deal a lot of damage, and they become very worth it. Anyway, Vanille is the 89/89 breaker for Rebels, with a 40% fire, lightning, water, and earth imperil field. And this is not 4 different fields. This is one field that does all this at the exact same time. So you put up her field, all of these are being broken, which is really good because, for example, you know, some of the rebels are earth. For example, Tulian. Well, you wouldn't put Tulian and Vanille in the same party. But, you know, the rebel of lightning and cloud, you could also put Yuffie on the party, the same party, the rebel party, and Vanille handles the earth imperil for Yuffie. And that's really good. Not to mention the upcoming Ramza is another rebel leader. He's an earth unit. So, you know, Ramza and Vanille go great together because, once again, you know, we have the dual element fields and breaks. Anyway, that's Vanille. Then we have Avon or Avon, I don't know the proper pronunciation. He is a collaboration unit from Dragon Quest, which we may or may not get. As we saw from Kier, that kind of basically totally confirmed. We skipped one of the Dragon Quest collaborations and we're never going to get it because Kier is literally a copy-paste of, I already forgot his name, Porin, a Dragon Quest unit. So because they literally copy-pasted his kit onto a reskin, there's no way we're getting that collaboration. So they're showing that we do skip collaborations. Now, Avon is from Dragon Quest Dai, which we have not skipped in the past. So we're probably going to get him. In any case, he is a breaker again. He's a wind. Doesn't have any special categories, but he has the best field. So he has a 5-element imperil field. 40% to fire, ice, lightning, wind, and light element. He imperils all of those by 40% on top of his, you know, big 150 imperil. So 190 imperil to 5 different elements with 89 defense and spirit break. And that's really, really good. But once again, he just doesn't really deal any damage. Like, for example, where's Avon? Where's Avon? Somewhere around here. Here it is, Legendary Hero Avon. Like, 291 billion, and this is with the, you know, this is a JP build, estimated gear, etc. But we're just going to say he does not deal very much damage at all. Very, very, very low damage. Same thing as, like, you know, Yish, Lion, Emperor, etc. He's just a dedicated breaker, and that's all he does. But he's a good breaker with great fields. Then we move into, again, another level of power creep with breakers. So then we get Galuf, King of the Castle Galuf, or whatever his name is. He's fire category, but more importantly, he also has the gathering category. This is a new category coming with Locke. It is going to bring a whole new category. By the way, I kind of glossed over it, but you'll notice literally no one has the breaker tag for the evocation category. This is the category with Esper Tyvis and Esper Roka. They're both evocation leaders. They have a 750 leader skill for evocation units. Like, you know, go Tyvis, Roka, the new Nelica, a bunch of the anniversary, JP anniversary units like Siren Yish, Fairy Leftia, I don't know, a bunch of them. Also, a bunch of older units have the evocation tag, like, you know, Quistis, etc., etc. There is no breaker for that category. So that is one thing to keep in mind, is Elespirus with the Clash Wills support category that we're going to assume that Roka and Tyvis are going to get. Elespirus would fall under the category of Evoke by matter of being under the Clash of Wills category if Roka or Tyvis get that category. Anyway, moving forward to the Gathering category. That's the new category with Locke. That is also when categories start becoming dual-typed in JP. So Locke is 750 to Gathering and 500 to Fire. So for example, on a Locke party, a Locke you know, primarily fire party. Locke is the premium leader. He's fire himself. Galoof could be your breaker, and Galoof has 40% fire, wind, and earth and peril fields. But Galoof could do that. But for example, you could also put Genesis on the Locke party. So even though Genesis is not gathering, because he is fire category, he still gets a 500% leader skill. It won't be a 750, but as we know, Genesis basically damage caps regardless at a 500 leader skill. So there you go. Galoof is that. Now Galoof also gets the Royal category, which comes down the road a little bit later. But again, if you want to go with a, you know, if you're going with the Royal category, that's Noctis. That's a primarily light team. It wouldn't make a whole lot of sense to go with Galoof, but you could. He does qualify. And as we're going to see right here, we're going to jump over here real quick. Galoof, the damage is like, it's not meta tier, but it's like 700 billion approximately, which to comparison is something around like, you know, 2B or Cloud. Like it's around Cloud Strife on a Rebel party. So it's like, it's good damage. It really is, you know. So Galoof, you know, all the breakers going forward start dealing actual damage as opposed to being dead slots like the older breakers, you know, Laguna, Emperor, Lion, Yish, and then some of these like Vanille, Aven, based on the preview, probably Elespirus. All these breakers that don't deal any damage, they just break. Going forward, Galoof and them will be breaking and dealing damage. Then we have Agrias, another breaker. She is the Rebel category. So the reason they're doing that is with the Final Fantasy Tactics, instead of making a new category for Tactics, they just recycled the Rebel category. Or I guess I should say they added to it. So Ramza, the premium leader for Tactics, is also Rebellion. But Ramza is 750 Rebellion and 500 to Earth. And that's when Earth units become decent again. So, you know, Agrias is the breaker. Now, unfortunately, I don't know why, but they kind of like took a step backwards for two breakers, as Agrias is only 30% in peril field and only to 2 elements, 30 lightning and 30 earth. She's also the Royal category. So Agrias is Royal and Rebellion, and just, you know, at a brief estimated damage, Agrias is lower in DPS as well than Galoof. Yeah, I'm not entirely sure why they took a step backwards with Agrias. I guess they figured Galoof was too good or something, and Agrias got to dial it down a notch. I don't know, but for whatever reason, they figured Agrias needed to be weaker. So her fields are lower, her damage is lower as well. I don't understand why. That's the case, though. Then we get a new category yet again. This is with Final Fantasy 15, very recent on JP. We get Noctis with the Royal category, and then the breaker for that category is Prompto. He's a light unit, he's a Royal category, and he has imperil fields for fire, ice, and light, but only at 30%. And as far as his damage, it's somewhere around here. Where is his damage? Prompto. Where's Prompto? Oh my god, where is it? I'm probably looking right at it. Here it is. Here it is, Prompto. So he's approximately about the same-ish as Agrias. Again, not super great on the DPS. Basically, I'm not sure why, but Galoof is really good damage, and then the others are not so much. But Prompto, you know, again, they took a small step backwards on breaks with the 30% fields. Then, just came out in JP, we have a new breaker, Metzi, who is Rebellion and Gathering category, 89 breaks, and he has, again, we're back to the good breaks, so 40% imperil field for ice, lightning, and water. It seems like they're trying to bring water back with the most recent stuff. This literally just came out 2 days ago in JP, so we'll have to see where it goes from there. But Metzi's damage is actually relatively underwhelming, so he's actually even worse than the others. But he does have the good fields, though, so that's kind of nice. But anyway, there is just a brief look at some upcoming breakers you might want to consider getting. So just, you know, as a real quick overview, Elespirus is going to be, as far as we can tell so far, the only relevant Clash of Wills support breaker, which means, technically speaking, she might be able to go onto all of the upcoming premiums. Like, you know, Ramza, Noctis, Locke, Tyvis, Roka, maybe, etc. Now that being said, Elespirus, as far as we saw from the preview, is only dark. So very, very narrow. Now if you wanted more broad breakers, you might want to wait a little bit for Elespirus instead of her, and maybe go for like either Vanille with all these fields, Aven with all these fields, Gloof with less fields but a lot more personal damage, and then Agrius or Prompto, slightly worse fields, but again, good personal damage. And then Metzi is really far away. I wouldn't really plan around Metzi. He's too far away for right now. But there it is. There's just a quick overview of what you're thinking about for breakers. Or, of course, you could still use your old breakers. For example, Red-Eyed Saul and Black Flame Reagan are still totally fine. And they both deal good damage. The only issue is they don't have good categories. Red-Eyed Saul is the dark category, which, as we know, is not a good category. The only leader for dark is either Ibarra or Deoxys. He will not fit on a Roka party because he's not evocation. And then Blades of Black Flame Reagan is fire or dark. Fire tag is his shift form, which is lower damage. His base form is dark tag, which is good damage. Same problem here. No good dark leaders. But both of these do fit on a rain party with 500%. But, they're not going to get 750s from all this down here. Anyway, there's a look into breakers. Hope it helps. See you in a bit.